Hey folks, thanks for joining on July 23rd Crow Community Call. This is our bi-weekly call where everybody from the community is welcome to join. We have a loose agenda where we'll run through topics for this bi-weekly. We'll also talk about some milestones and go through some community contributed topics. So we are loosely following CNCF guidelines, which apply here. We have a code of conduct, which roughly translates to be kind, be nice to everybody, and usually things are fine. Um, so we have a meeting here. I think we'll run through milestones with him, and anybody who can't join. Obviously, we have a recording. We can come on back and review this. So let me see. Typical. I'm just looking at the agenda right now. I'll drop it in. Oh, actually, everybody's on it in the call. So we have recurring. So I don't think we have any new folks on the call today. So we like to welcome new members or attendees. We can dive right into milestone review if that works for you. Amin.
Yes.
Cool.
Let me share my screen.
Yep, I can see.
Oh, can you see my screen? Okay, cool. Um, so in general, I changed. So we had this milestone set for the first week of July, and we moved it to the last week of July. So the new date is like July 13th. Sorry, 30th. Um, and overall, we're doing generally well. We measured a lot of PRs last and this week. We're getting closer there, but I can talk about what's still left. Um, so three main things that are like left in here is so first one is the apply set. What is apply set? Yeah, this one. So the apply set PR. The other one is the drift detection, and the other one is collections. So the two of them have actually open PRs, and all of them are in the process of getting reviewed. So if you have thoughts or opinions, um, please like drop them in there. We're looking for feedback from the community. Um, yeah. Other than that, I think everything that we wanted to get from this milestone, beside those three, are already in or very close to be in. And yeah, I think we're on track for next Wednesday. Um, at most, what we will do if we feel that one of the three big PRs is gonna slow us down, we're gonna make the cut to 0.4 and move one of those, if not all of them, to 0.5. Does that make sense in general? Any questions?
I guess one question from me was, what are we doing with the watch set now? I mean, I think we can see on the PR that it's quite contentious at the moment. I also wanted to talk about it again here. I'm not sure how do we proceed with this one.
Yeah, so watch set is a pretty intense PR. Um,
Like, I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot of
uh,
feedback, not just from me and Fabian here, but also from others in the community, which,
mhm.
yeah, for me, I don't know if we want to force it in within a week now. It it sounds a bit, I don't know.
I, I mean, I brought this up several times in the community call by now, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I fully agree with you. One of the reasons why this PR is not, I personally do not feel it for next week is, I mean, the same reasons that you're mentioning. I think there are simpler ways of doing things. I I'm not sure. It should be an opt-in feature to start with, And I'm not sure this is exactly what we wanted when we talked about drift detection and automatically reconciling instances. So if there's like if we see like objection from I don't know like 30% of the people in the community, for me that's enough signal to be like, oh, we need to pause on this one. Um,
Yeah, I think uh, the general proposal I've made several times is rather at least starting out with informers, right? And I think Scott, who reviewed it rather
yeah,
in depth now, also suggested rather starting with informers,
yes.
fine-tuned for this use case, than with watch sets. And Jakob and me, just before the community call, kind of as a preparation for the discussion, also just started out a little bit or tried around with setting up informers instead of the watch set to essentially achieve the same behavior. We're currently in a very early state, but we are already at the point where it would work, or where the general behavior is there, it would work. So we could probably we could also show you if you're interested right now, but we could also bring out probably an alternative suggestion for doing this based on informers within the next several days.
Do you have already an implementation?
We have a
Yeah, we have an implementation.
working early implementation, yes.
Oh, okay. If you have like a branch, I would love to take a look. If you can like share with me,
Sure.
let's see what's going on. And I see like Matthew is in here as well. I would love to hear about what Matthew thinks. But overall, I fully agree that watch sets is definitely not the way to go, at least as a first implementation. There's also like some use of channels in here, and I'm fine with using channels if someone really, I mean, when they're needed. There are some areas of this code that struck me as we could have like deadlocks. I didn't like fully debug it personally, but I was like, I'm not sure this would work properly.
Yeah,
But I would rather like use informers and just like stream everything as needed. They are battle tested. I would not come and build my own opinionated set of informers. Anyways, please, like, if you have any branch, we would love to take a look at that. We can also talk to Barney. Um, and honestly, if you have something that is working, we can even start by merging that first and see if watch
So
set is going to evolve one day to something we want to use.
I think
yeah,
it's Jakob, do you want to go?
yeah, I just want to say, like, I don't want to compromise Barney's implementation, but I don't know, the last few times we've discussed on it, it's felt like the choice was already made, right? Like for me, it was very strange in the way the PR developed. I don't know. Like right now, we have this huge PR out there that's reviewed with 50 comments or something, or even more at this point. I don't know how many it has been. And I don't know, I don't want to compromise the effort that's been made on there, right? So of course we can open a separate PR, but it would be good to at least understand if we are even willing to review that then. But my understanding was that's the case, right? So yeah, it's all good, I guess.
So the way I'm seeing is that like it really does not hurt to merge an initial implementation that is way simpler than this and then continue iterating on this later. Because I generally do not see a benefit of using like watch semantics or like managing your own watches on your own. I generally believe that informers is a better approach. So
Yeah.
this is open source. I think Barney has so many other PRs open. I don't think he will necessarily feel bad about not merging this one. So if there is like something that is simpler, I'll take that.
Right. Yeah, then I would say, I mean, I shared the branch that we have right now. It's very early draft, right? So this is really us just trying to basically take the functionality that Barney implemented in the watch set and just take the exact same functionality and port it to shared informers instead. So we used the shared informer factory and we integrated it into the logic that you already built on in the instance controller for setting up your shared informer factory, right? So we basically just reused that architecture. So if you're interested, just take a look. Doesn't have to be now, right? And then maybe we'll open a draft and we can discuss again on this as well. And Matt, if you have any feedback as well, please feel free to share it with us.
Yes, I mean, I've only looked at this PR sort of briefly, and I just remember from the discussions that we had, and I don't know if we don't have Walter or Barney here, who I think
Yeah.
sort of were maybe the ones who were pushing for this approach. So maybe just a little bit of history might be useful. I mean, I think one thing is I don't think that there was a ton of in-depth discussion about the exact details of this implementation. Um, I think we agree that we want to do something like this, whether it's with informers or whether it's with WatchSet. Like, I think that is well understood. And I believe that like Barney has had some past experience with informers, maybe in the context of KCC, where they used informers and then memory got blown out because, you know, they were keeping a bunch of stuff in memory. And that this was, they eventually did something like this in order to mitigate that problem. So I think that that was where he was coming from, is like just jumping straight to sort of where they ended up in this other context. With that said, I mean, I don't have the full details for like how exactly did they configure the informers. Maybe there's a way that we can set them up such that you sort of sidestep or at least are less likely to run into, you know, the blowing the memory out problem. And I haven't looked close enough at this PR to convince myself that it actually solves that issue. So I'm definitely open to having the discussion about, hey, how should we do this? And if there's a way to configure informers that we think meets or at least mostly meets our needs and is going to dodge that issue. I mean, I'm much more supportive of like, let's use the battle tested infrastructure if we can. You only deviate from that if you have like a really compelling reason to do so. And I don't know that we do yet. So yeah, that's sort of my 2 cents. Is I'd be open to seeing alternative implementations discussed or you know, a PR for them or whatever.
Um, I fully agree with you, Matthew. I think there's like memory risks and memory usage explosions with using informers. What I had in mind, and I didn't fully like read through your implementation, Jacob, is actually there is like a special informer in Kubernetes that is not like the other informers. It's called the metadata informer. I don't know if you looked at this one before, but this
Yeah,
one,
I mean, I think I gave a comment in Barney's PR if he took a look at partial object metadata
yeah,
informers
yes,
yet, which are kind of the equivalent, I would say, to what you're suggesting. I mean, there are a few implementations running around in client Go, controller runtime,
yeah.
but the thing is, right, I don't actually like my personal take on it right now is that no one has even set up performance tests for anything in Crow yet. So it is very strange for me to optimize on memory on an implementation that we do not even have data on, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I understand if we go for excellence by default, right? I get it, right? But how would we even measure that that implementation does what it's supposed to do? That for me is just a bit strange, right? Either way, it doesn't even matter which approach we take. Like I
So
wouldn't
maybe
even
this
mind
that's
having the watch set in at all if we would have data that proves that, okay, now this solves a real problem that we have with Crow, right? In general, when scaling out for I don't know how many thousands of resources in an instance.
yeah. So this is something that like I haven't looked close enough at the watch set PR. So apologies if this is really obvious from the PR, but there's two challenges, right? Like partial object metadata is sort of about I don't want the whole object, but I want some of each object. I was under the impression that the idea with watch set was I don't want to watch all of the type of the object. I don't even want to watch everything. And like there's no selector that I can write that is the selector for the informer. I want to watch like
Right.
individual named resources. You know what I mean? Like I want to watch these 7 resources in these namespaces. Now, maybe there's a way to actually do that with informers too. I haven't seen it because I know when I tried to set them up in the past, it's like, oh, you're a little bit limited and it becomes difficult to sort of do that really fine-tuned targeting. Is that true or
So what we do have is right now, no matter which implementation we look at, either the watch set or the one with informer factories, we do set up informers based on GVRs, right? So we have the REST mappings behind the scene, and that REST mapping then fetches based on the dynamic client, and that dynamic client is currently unoptimized in both branches. So both in the watch set as well as in the shared informer factory, we use the full object. And the benefit, as you said already, right, we would get if we would switch to partial object metadata is really if we have large CRs, we wouldn't have to cache those in the informer cache, but we would just have to cache the partial metadata because we don't actually need the objects. We only need the reconcile trigger for the instance itself because the controller, the requeue happens always on the instance, right? So it would be possible for sure. I'm sure we could set up a partial object metadata cache, but both implementations right now don't have it.
By the way, just to add this here, we kind of do need object sometimes. Not at this place.
But where do we need the something above labels, name, and namespace?
If you want to evaluate the cell expressions, you do have to look into the, for example, deployment and read out the status from the deployment to fetch that and put that to another cell expression. So we actually do need to fetch the object at certain places. So it wouldn't even be completely wasted to cache them, just as an addition.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just wondering because that's another thing that we looked at, right? While we were building this, we noticed that in the watch set, there's this dynamic interface that is proxying the execution client. So in the implementation from Barney, you have the execution client and the instance controller, right? And that's wrapped with a handler that pushes against the watch set, but the watch set doesn't use the execution client, it uses the client set. So it's actually two different client implementations that kind of work on the same object. So it's a bit strange. So you have one object which is working, like the direct cluster interaction works with the execution client, right, in the resource controller, in the instance reconciler. And then you have the other client in the watch set, which works based on the client set that comes from the resource graph definition controller. And I have not yet figured out if that actually causes any problems, if you actually have differing authorizations, for example, for service accounts and so on. I have not tried it out yet. We would still have to verify it.
So, okay, my thought thing here is that we need to do one thing at a time. Like I know we can optimize things around in here. What's happening today in the instance reconciler is that once you start reconciling a DAG, you get the objects from the API server. I understand you can optimize that and start getting things from the cache, and this is what Barney maybe is trying to do. But I would not start playing with that until like, I mean, I see like two features in here. Like I see like, hey, I want to reconcile everything when something changes in the child resources. And I want to maybe after that, like start reading everything from a cache if I already have the information in memory. So,
I mean, if you take a look at the dynamic interface, you can see what he's doing with the API calls. I think it's not in the watch set directly, but we would have to take a look in the PR exactly, right? It's because it's a bit strange. He uses the API call first, and then he calls the handler that you can see here. And this handler actually does registrations for watches, and then that handler registration calls back into the enqueue. It's a bit all over the place. There are also some panics in there, right? If you call a list, for example, or a watch, right? I'm not going to go into detail on this one, but I just can't tell you what the behavior will be without trying it out.
Okay, my personal opinion here is that we need probably like, so this one needs to be split into two things. I can see like it's trying to do everything at once. I can see like at least step one be like, hey, can I just trigger an instance reconciliation by, having informers? They can be metadata informers. You can be like, I don't know, informers with custom indexes and maybe some memory optimization in there. And then later on, we can be like, hey, you know what? Since we're watching everything, we don't have to call the API server all the time. Maybe now we can have some sort of abstraction and we can solve that problem in one specific PR. This is like, at least I see like two different things in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also smaller PRs, please.
So I agree. I think the caching topic is a different is a different topic from the triggering the reconciliation of the child objects.
Yep, absolutely. I think this PI is trying to do both at the same time, and this is why it's very hard to. I mean, I wanted to document my review multiple times, but it was like I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
I don't think Barney's PR is trying to do multiple things at the same time. I think Barney's PR is very specifically about watching the child object and doesn't do anything more than triggering the parent object if the child object changes. But it's still very much code because it's a complete custom implementation that has to do a lot of stuff that informers already do internally, right?
Why is he wrapping the dynamic? Why is he like wrapping dynamic controller then?
If you have the RGD controller, he sets up the watch set, right? And then to make the watch set actually get informed about changes, he needs his own callback behavior. So he uses this dynamic interface, right? So he creates a new dynamic interface where he wraps the client that usually is used by the instance controller with this handler, right? With this dynamic handler, so that every time he does an interaction on the cluster, for example, he creates a resource in the instance controller, it calls back into the watch set so that the watch set can register the GVK. That triggers this go function that you saw in the watch set go, and that then again triggers the enqueue. So it's kind of like a whole circle.
So what do you do when there's a delete? Do you just like unwatch, like literally cancel your watch?
This is
not exactly. I think delete does not cancel the watch. The watch will be running indefinitely, but it will delete the callback functionality. So the callback functionality which would trigger the enqueue. So this would, delete the function that does the enqueue if an event occurs for that thing.
I will give him that it's very hard to deregister handlers properly, right? So I understand that this is maybe not perfect right now, but currently the behavior is that the watches don't stop.
So what if you had two instances?
Sorry?
What if you had two instances and like you've seen only one delete? Are you like deregistering the callback because you've seen like one delete, or are we keeping a count and a track about how many instances we have?
If you go into the handle delete in the watch set manager, then this is where you can see this behavior. So this unregistered GK is on the watch set. That's the actual magic that happens. So if you go into unregistered GK, this is the function where the watch should have been stopped if it does get stopped at all.
I still like don't see any like tracking to how many objects we have actually.
The thing is, it doesn't track objects, right? It tracks GVKs, right? Because the watches have to happen on the GVR level, right? So you have to have the rest mappings. So the only thing he can do is he can see if there's no more mapping available for anything, and then he can deregister the handler for that. And then I think he could deregister with the watch. I don't think he stops the watch, but I think he deregisters the handler, like Fabian said.
Yeah.
But again, like my biggest problem with all of this is it's not anywhere in any test, so I cannot guarantee the behavior because I didn't test all of the cases, right? It's from looking at the PR, trying around with it. I don't want to give like any guarantees without Barney being here and actually saying it, right? I'm sure he had some thoughts behind it, right? I don't want to compromise his thinking here. Because I'm sure he had like an idea of how this is supposed to work, right? And I just don't have that.
Fair. Yes, I think it would be good to talk with Barney or Walter about this. I don't see them in this meeting, but I know Barney is I think he's on PTO this week. So we might get a reply from him next week. My high level thoughts is that I genuinely we can do way simpler than this. Let's just if we can simplify it, just like register informers, I think these kind of things, they definitely can land in next to dynamic controller. It doesn't have to be a completely different abstraction. I mean, I understand the need of one different abstraction, but if we can just like trigger the reconciliation, that would be great. And then
Yeah,
um,
understood.
yeah, I hear you. I can see where
I mean, what
we
we can
probably need
think
to do
of
better.
is we would want to enable this by default, I guess, right? Whenever this gets pushed in. So I think the
I think
functionality,
I, th- I
like
think Amin
the
mentioned
problem
several
that
times that
yeah, sorry, sorry, go ahead.
I think Amin mentioned several times that he specifically doesn't want it in as by default, at least not in the beginning.
Okay, because then I'm okay with a lot of things, I guess, right? Like as long as we don't do things that people will just go nuts with, right? As soon as they have reconciliations going on. And I had this thing with Cert Manager and with Topo LVM before. I don't want to run into it again. I think if we have a flag or something, it will be fine. No matter which
Yeah,
implementation we take.
but I think at the same time, like I do think like I don't think it makes sense to merge something that we're thinking we don't ever want to turn on default. Like we want this behavior
Fair.
by default eventually, right? I think. And so
Yeah.
if we're concerned about a particular implementation or whatever, it doesn't seem like we're doing ourselves a service by saying, well, okay, we'll merge it and put it behind a flag, and then like, well, okay, but we're expecting to turn that flag on eventually. Like, what are we doing if we're not actually going to enable it, right? Like, we're going to
Yeah,
add
you're right.
another implementation and then let people pick between them, like that. That's okay, maybe for testing in like a very short time scale, but not, in the long term. That doesn't make a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I honestly just up leveling this. I think we got to talk to Barney, get an idea of where his head's at. I think I see 2 week old, very high level guidance from Scott that seems to rhyme with this conversation of like breaking this up, proving out the concepts. So I think that's probably the right next step. Where, and I fully agree with Matt. Like we don't necessarily want to push tech debt, right? Like we should
Yeah.
we should kind of align on this and make sure that we have the right component pieces going in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think jumped out for me, I don't remember who said it, apologies, was if we're gonna do something where the main argument is performance, like or avoiding memory, that there should be some evidence,
Some data points. Yeah.
some data set back up and
Yeah.
just show, hey, that it's 50% better or whatever than sort of the naive implementation. I mean, I'm not saying we need like oodles and oodles of effort there, but I think, premature optimization being the root of all evil and everything, like we should have at least something pushing us in that direction. And I think right now what we have is feels like we're concerned, but we don't actually have hard data. And I think that's a tough place to be. So maybe the takeaway is not no on this sort of more optimized approach, whether it's in via informers or watch sets, but just, hey, let's maybe do the sort of simple and dumb thing to begin with, and let's write a test or get some experiments that show that that is not going to work. And then when we see that, we say, okay, now we know we need to do something.
Okay. Does that mean we take this out of 0.4? Considering what was just said, right? Jesse mentioned we should and I agree, we should definitely talk to Barney about this again, right? This alone will put it in jeopardy no matter what the outcome is. And then all of the aforementioned things by Matt, right? But I mean, I think all of this is, I would not feel confident with the 0.4 in our environment, which contains this.
Yeah, I don't think we have this in 0.4, do we?
It is
We
in
don't?
0.4 right now. No,
I
it's
think
in 0.4, I'm pretty sure.
the drift detection, I wouldn't know how it works without it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
agree.
see. So it's implicit. Yeah, the it's not here, but okay, I got it. So it's implicitly part of.
Yeah, exactly. Without this doesn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I think we probably could pull this out and pin it. You want to just bounce it to 0.5? Does that seem like the best? Not to kick the can, but to keep it an active play.
I mean, considering the discussions we have here, I'm sure this will not die out. Everyone is interested in this feature. This was the main thing everyone was looking forward to, I believe.
Okay. So yeah, I think we can move that out to ODA 5. And I honestly, I think I was trying to find, I mean, where you and I had discussed like performance baseline and E2E. And I think we ended up putting it in the list of GSOC potential. So we never opened an issue, but we talked about the need for that data months ago. So it seems like we should break that out into a new issue as well.
I
That
don't
makes
know. I
sense.
remember we switched testing frameworks and all of that. Like, is there any plan right now to have any performance testing in there? Not right now, right? So. Oh,
Amin,
you're
I think
muted,
you might be
Amin.
muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So what I was saying is, we don't have anyone working on performance testing. I know we proposed that for GSOC, but the students are working on different things. But
Oh yeah, no,
would be,
I didn't mean that. I just meant we never cut an issue specific
yeah,
to that. It's just in the
yeah.
list on the GSOC. So I think we should cut an issue.
That's
Um,
I think it should be documentation, performance testing. So,
documentation?
is it? I don't
I mean,
know. I think
I don't know, it doesn't matter. So in my opinion, we should have as part of the test framework continuous performance and
yeah.
baselines so that you know if the PR is coming in and we cut it and we run the test that adds 30% memory impact or whatever. I think we need to know that. I don't think it's
I will
docked,
say
but we
that
can
it is
move it later.
it's quite hard to add continuous testing on controller memory usage and CPU without infra on it. So if you
Yep.
want to have it continuously integrated, I'm sure whatever we will do will take quite a lot of time, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think this is simple, but it's where we have to go anyway. I think we're gonna need persistent
Mhm.
infra anyway. So
I'm just gonna write something very generic, and we can like see if someone want to work on this. But I fully agree with you. I think we can have something actually that's automated that really benchmarks a few things about Crow. But yeah. All
Especially when
right.
it comes to like things like memory usage, just thinking that we probably need a continuous test setup, right? It's not enough to just spin up the controller in a quick pipeline and let it run.
Fair, yeah. I think those are called soak
Like
tests, something like
all
that.
of the concerns we mentioned, like they were really only measurable if you take like huge environments and you let them run for long amounts of time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can call them soak tests. We do this in ACK a lot. We run controllers for end-to-end tests for almost a week before we send them to GA. We can definitely have something for Crow in here. So yeah, let's
okay, so yeah, coming
let's
back
see
to
that.
milestone. Oh, sorry. Did you have something specific?
No,
Okay. I have just a high level question. So like in the chat, we have Carlos asked the same question that I had before the meeting really got going. We have issues in that. Yeah, where are you going?
sorry.
What are you doing? Stop clicking things. So just go back to that 4. So you get 26% complete. You got 11 open issues, 4 closed, right? A
We
lot of
didn't
these
fully
issues
try these
have
things.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. I think you know what I'm saying, so go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, hey, a lot of the PRs that are merged and we didn't triage everything in here. And we also we have some PRs that are very close to getting merged. I'm just like, for example, the apply setting here and those two things. Like, 'cause I know in my mind, the percentage in here is not really a good reflection of what's going on.
Yes, that's the call out. Would like it to be. So we should have PRs that map to issues, and when the PR merges, you close the issue. So I don't know if this is a better example of like Crow status conditions. Like Scott had a PR forever. We finally merged it. That issue's still open. Is that issue still open?
It's not. It's just like we just merged it yesterday, so it needs to be just like closed now.
Well, sure.
It's
But yeah,
not fully
that's
fixed. So I
okay.
still
So
want to
it's
go
not.
back and
Oh.
work on instances. I worked on RGD. So
Perfect.
RGD is fixed, and there's issue 415 that only talks about RGD status, and that's fixed. But overall status in Crow is not fixed.
Well, that's a great answer. So this is like a multi-PR issue. We're going to work through it. Okay. So you landed RGD conditions, would like to pass on instance conditions, could be for 0.5. Great. So what's the right move here? Should we take this issue and now carry it forward into 0.5 where so how does that show up in release notes, for example? Like, should we have two issues, one for RGD conditions, the other for instance conditions?
415
Like, what's the
could
best
be
way we want to do
assigned.
this? Yeah. Yeah,
So
so
we're gonna
this is not something we're going to solve right now, but I think it is sort of I don't know, a project hygiene conversation that we should have around like the best way. Because I'm looking at issues as well, and we have like 104 open issues. We really should be knocking some of those down. The reason that this is important, I think, is people look at the project and they want to know like kind of a snapshot of where things are at. And it becomes easier if you join this meeting, but like it should be easier just to kind of look at. And this is something we can work on over time. Like we don't need to rattle it, but I did want to call out Carlos's observation. Yeah, really, yeah, exactly. Release notes probably cut off of PRs, so we should be fine there. So we could just carry the issue forward into 0.5. That maybe is the simplest thing.
Are you saying we should carry like conditions into 0.5?
Well,
Because
so
so here's the
everything I
thing.
just said is basically we have an umbrella issue that was
Yeah.
broken down into at least two PRs. One has merged and will be in 0.4. And
Yes.
Scott, who is the author of this, said he'd like to move instance to 0.5. We don't necessarily need a new issue. We could just carry this out of 0.4 and into 0.5, where the PR will show up in 0.4 release notes. Seems okay for now.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And then moving forward, I think we can think a little bit more about like what the standard practice is. But that works for me. It certainly feels like more work for maintainers to kind of go through and curate this stuff. But I think if we set the bit on like what the process is, then we'll start having, PR comments that closes issue this, and then it'll, be a little bit more automated. I think that would be great. So certainly not trying to give a few people more homework. That wasn't the point.
I use the automation when making a PR if it actually does fix the issue. It's a two-part thing.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, so I was just looking through the issues open in 0.4, and I think that 4 of them are closed by apply sets, and then apply sets is also in the milestone as the PR. So I think 5 of these 10 open issues are resolved by apply sets in the milestone.
What do you think about apply sets, Matthew? I know you're the
Yeah,
one
so
who
this
spends like
one
a
I
lot of
did
time
look at.
reviewing
Yeah,
it.
this one I did look at much more closely. So
How do you feel about apply sets?
I think it makes sense. So basically, to me, I'm not aware of, at least, and I mean maybe somebody else is, but I'm not aware of some like informer-esque solution to this problem that's like widely accepted by the community and is used universally. I do think in this particular instance that we may just be for our own ownership tracking, for lack of a better word, which is to say, like, the RGD needs to remember, like, it's been updated. It had some number of things before, and now it has a different number, either more or less. It needs to remember like what it had and to go clean up the old ones or whatever. And I think that this is a reasonable way to do it. And I like that it's basically just a variant of something that's also in kubectl. So it's not like totally out of left field. Like it is based on something else. Although I think Barney wrote that other thing too. But I went through it. I mean, I had but they were mostly nits or like tests and stuff. I think that with maybe a couple more eyes that this would be ready to merge. That's my sort of 2 cents on it. But yeah, I guess curious if other folks have looked and had a thought on it as well.
I have
Like
a high level question, and I haven't really looked very in depth. I've seen like most of the stuff, I would say diagonally, but it strikes me as well as maybe a lot of the abstractions in this PR are not necessary. Because like I'm like, hey, we're doing an apply to the API server. Why does it take like 3,000 lines of code to call like apply against the API server? Maybe like I'm missing something. Maybe it's more complicated than that. But in my head, I'm still like not really convinced that is like the simplest approach we can do. I know like kubectl is using this package apply sets. But yeah, maybe I'm missing something in here. I'm still like need to wrap my head around it. But yeah, that's my initial thought.
One thing I was wondering when I looked at this is that apparently we also do tooling differentiation and all of that. Like, is this something that we target in general? Like, what's the goal of like the final scope of this? Like, how much immutability do we want to have on these apply sets?
Yeah, so
What do you mean by like tooling?
My understanding of that tooling annotation is that, I mean, and I think if you look, one of the files, maybe applyset.go has a
Ooh.
link to, like, there's a spec, and the spec basically says, like, this apply sets is a concept, and you give, like, a tooling label that differentiates, like, if you've got multiple people who are all doing apply sets, they can have a different tooling label, and they're supposed to ignore one another's,
Okay.
changes. Now, whether we
Mhm.
need that or not, I mean, I think is a fair question, but there is, like, if you go look at this kubectl apply prune details apply set specification on line 18, the link, like there is a spec in kubectl that this is following. Like all of these annotations are from that spec.
Understood. Thanks a lot.
That doesn't necessarily mean we have to accept it as gospel, by the way, just that like there is a cap around it, and it describes basically how all of this stuff works.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
don't
just
have like
took a
much
look at
thoughts.
sorry, just one final question on the cap. Like I just took a look at the cap and I'm not even sure if the cap is promoted yet. Like we're talking about kubectl apply prune redesign and graduation strategy. That's what this thing is under, right? And for that they introduced this new cap, right? Like is the plan that we like go along with it, or what's the idea here? Like, or do we just say, okay, this is a nice idea and that's why we took it over?
Yeah, so this is where, like, I mean, I think my understanding is that, yeah, like Justin, who is also in the maintainers list, wrote the cap, right? So this is coming from,
Okay.
like that's I think where it's coming from,
Okay.
is that the cap came from folks who are involved in the Crow project, and so they're basically
Ah,
reusing some previous work that they did for kubectl.
awesome. Yeah, thanks. That's all
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wanted to
again,
know.
whether that's the right thing or not, I mean, I'm totally open to have that discussion, but I think that that's the story for how did we learn about this is I think Justin wrote it, is how we learned about it.
All right.
I have a question. So this cap was in alpha for since 1.127, and it never like it doesn't even say that has plans to become beta and stable. If it will not be graduated and it's not really gonna mature enough, do we want to use it in Pro?
I mean, I will say that it got quite a bit of interesting interaction, and I think there is demand in Kubernetes. I think there's just no one pushing it further, right? I think the issue got even closed and reopened a few times over the course of its lifetime. So I don't want to like talk it down or anything. I'm not saying the cap is bad. I just was curious where it came from. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it. This spec is fairly well defined from what I can see, but yeah. We have to take a look, I guess. I can maybe do a review as well as a non maintainer and maybe give a few cents, but yeah, if the spec is implemented well, why not?
Yeah, that was my take was, yeah, maybe doing this implementation like and using apply sets ends up being more complicated in our code base than strictly necessary. But at the same time, I thought it was nice that they did consider, well, okay, what happens if there's multiple writers? Like, how do we deal with conflicts? All of that's like, okay, maybe there is some complexity here that I just am not thinking of naively, and that given that we've got it, maybe it's worth using anyway because it's a standard, even if it's not an accepted standard, and it's had some thought put into it. That it may be worth, like, it solves our problem, and at its core, it's doing pretty basic stuff of like it's pretty much just keep a list of namespaces we manage in annotations and like figure out which resources in those namespaces by annotations those resources. It's pretty basic at its core, so it doesn't feel that problematic to me. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I mean, it does have a complete inventory tracking. I'm not sure how well it is implemented in the PI. I would have to take a look, but oh my God, this has been years already since we've last seen this. I think it was at KubeCon or something when someone talked to me about this. But the core idea is that you really have your own tracking mechanism behind it, right? So I'm not sure if it's like just a namespace, I guess. But yeah, I mean, everyone can take their own opinion on the PR. I guess we don't have to go too far into detail on it here.
Yeah, it is complete inventory tracking. The way that it does it, I think, is it remembers the namespaces it needs to look at, and then in those namespaces, it does a generic list using a label selector for the label that is the owner, like, by name or whatever, like myself. So it knows the namespaces it needs to query. Then it goes to Kube API server, queries those namespaces, and gets the resources that were at one point a part of it. Then it's got the whole set of everything, and you can do whatever you need to do, like remove items by deleting them or add items, what have you. Like that's my from my review a couple weeks ago. Maybe I got a little bit wrong, but that's basically it.
Reddit did a very bad job of taking notes on this, but it's in there.
I think it's okay. Maybe like action item for the folks in here. If you have thoughts and opinions like about this, please like drop them in the PR. I have mine on the way. Not I understand like the use case and the fact that it's dealing with conflicts. That's really cool. So I'll just like take a look at that. One of the Matthew, since like you're the one who spent most time on this one, I have a question. What is the difference between the apply set package used in this PR and the one that is in kubectl?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm obviously not the best person to answer this. The best person is Barney. I think that the difference is there is some registration callbacks this apply set does in order to resync and inform the RGD reconciliation process that doesn't exist in the kubectl one. So there's this notion of like the apply set knowing about what, like, you basically register a callback with it saying, hey, like when you get some sort of event when because going through this, right, like going through RGD reconciliation, it's not just you build one set and apply it and you're done, right? Like you build one layer of the graph or whatever, you apply that, and then you come back in and you build the next and you apply that, and you come back in and build the next and apply that. And so I think in order to make that work, he had to add some communication mechanism that isn't in the kubectl one. In the kubectl one, I think it's more of like you build the set, you apply it, you're done. There's not this notion of like there's multiple levels of or like multiple layers of application where like you apply one layer and then you need to go add on the next layer, and it needs to know about the previous layer because it's going to have references to it or whatever. So that's my recollection for the difference between it and the kubectl one. Is making it support that multiple applies where it sort of grows each time.
Is it fair to call it adding waves to Crow? Like some sort of waves, instead of having resource by resource management, now we're managing waves of resources. Is
I
that
don't think
fair?
that's something that's accurate. I think it's still resource by resource. It's just that the apply sets, the original implementation doesn't have support for that like resource by resource. It's like you make the whole set, you apply the whole set. And if you apply the whole set and you say remove an item, then what you're asking is to remove that item. You know what I mean? Like delete it. But in Crow, that's not the case, because like you just may not have gotten to that item yet because you're executing the RGD graph and you're somewhere high up in the dependency hierarchy. You can't just go delete the items you haven't seen yet if you're not done, you know? So there needs to be this notion of like, am I really done? Like, am I complete? Or, you know, are my dependencies all here and I can actually know to remove that thing or not? That's, I think, the difference.
All right.
I don't like. I have a question. Like in the community, is there like a guidance that we propose ADRs for stuff like this before we go and implement them in a PR, and then 5 maintainers sit in a community call and discuss if this is like worth it? Like I am not following it at all anymore. Maybe you are. I just don't follow it anymore.
Honestly, I wish this, like, especially those two PRs, like watch sets and apply sets, were discussed like before, like between maintainers before we really went to an implementation. I think like reading through code and trying to understand what's going on is much more harder than just discussing the feature directly and whether we want to support something or not.
Okay.
So yeah, like don't feel bad about it. It's definitely like something that we could have done better in this situation.
Oh, good. If you say you're comfortable with the situation, then I think we're fine.
I mean, my takeaway here is like we should probably do better in this sort of thing. And I do think that maybe we're in a bit of a like fast and loose sort of situation, and we're maybe trying to change that. So I think we need to have a discussion and sort of set up a process. I mean, to be fair, this PR came before like there wasn't even a section to write design docs in the repo until just recently, right? And this PR was created before that. So, you know, giving Barney due credit that I'm not sure that we really had defined such a process. And even now, I'm not sure that we fully defined such a process, although we're certainly closer to it than when this PR was sent.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, we're aligned here. There's no like open source is often like this, especially when you have more voices, right? So it's fine. Like looking back, it's like, yeah, we can learn and make things easier as we move forward. Nobody did anything wrong here. Like I think we're all aligned on that. Not bad to innovate and try to build things for sure. But I think, yeah, moving forward, helping people not dig so deep into stuff before we have broader conversations is good. And design proposal is kind of part of that. That makes sense. We just have a couple minutes left. Matt, I mean, do you want to just go to the milestone and close the issues out that you think can be closed, or is that because apply set's going to hang then that we don't really close them and we'll have to move them?
Yeah, I mean, I took a quick look and maybe I missed one, but I don't know that there's a bunch of issues in the milestone that are done. What I was saying with regard to the apply sets was if this merged, it solves like 5.
Exactly. So, right. And so I guess my question is do we need to move this out of the milestone? And like that, I'm hearing that we're kind of ready to cut a release next week, but I also see a bunch of open issues. That's it. Like I just want to understand at a high level where we're at, and if we need to refactor things. Because there are specific issues that I know and features that I know are closed out for O.4 that people want to use. But we don't, maybe we just need like more granularity. We can bounce things out of the milestone.
We can make a 0.3.1. It doesn't have to be 0.4. If people want to use that feature, I'm very happy to cut something in between.
I would prefer features go, and this maybe is just me, I would prefer features go into minor releases.
Okay.
Like a patch release is a patch release. So if you have bug fixes, sure, go 0.3.1 with a bug fix. I think if we're adding new features, I don't think we need to be afraid of adding more milestones if we need them, I guess is what I'm saying. Unless someone on this call has some kind of overlord that is like, thou must have only 5 milestones by this date. Well, let me know. But like, I don't think we have that. So
we can make 0.4 and create 0.6 and move things around. That's completely fine. We can stretch it out. It doesn't have to be
right. Okay.
Sure. I can.
And we can
work on
offline
that.
this too. We don't. Yeah, I'm not trying to put any pressure on anybody. Let's just set the bit, and we can offline it. We can talk about it in Slack. That's cool. But I mean, I would rather see there's a few things that are landed. I'd rather see them go out next week and not add more weeks. Sorry, Matt.
No, that's totally fine. I don't have any objection to having more releases. Like if we've got stuff that's merged, like great. The one thing I would say though is I do think that we should not kick the can down the road, especially on apply sets, given like my 2 cents at least is it's closer to mergeable than maybe the watch set stuff is. It feels like we should make a call on like get some people to give a review. Like I gave a happy approving it. I mean, I need to go back over and make sure that all my comments were responded to, but I don't have an objection to it philosophically. Like I would be happy to approve it. I think we should get other folks. Maybe Scott mentioned that you're willing to take a look, or Amin to take a look at that PR and get a feel for like, okay, do we like, do we not like? And we can make a call. Now, whether it makes it for the release this week or not, I'm less concerned about.
Right.
But
So wait,
let's
pause.
make a call.
So I would also say the flip side of what I said earlier is also, yeah, we all think this should go in. It can go in. We'll have twice as much stuff, and maybe we add a week to it. That's okay. That's okay too. I think we're kind of feeling this out. There's nothing super formal or rigid. That's why we didn't set dates on anything. This is exactly why, right? So we can just be like, hey, we think this is the right thing at this point in time. If anybody in the community disagrees, yell at us. Nobody's yelling. So let's just keep on marching. I think just like forward progress above all else is the most important thing. So awesome. Y'all are the best. I super have to drop too. Great.
All right. Well, thank you, folks.
Good evening, Europe, and good
Take care.
morning, Pacific. All right. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.